All right, let's dive straight into this explainer. Today we're unpacking exactly how May 2026 turned into a truly historic inflection point across hardware, software, and honestly even institutional trust. We are looking at a month where the tectonic plates of the tech industry fundamentally shifted. I mean, from the absolute astronomical valuations of hardware components to a massive coordinated pushback from everyday consumers, the landscape is changing at lightning speed. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 5 distinct chapters to make sense of all this: the AI memory revolution, the Great User Rebellion, AI's trust paradox, consumer security, and finally, 3 lessons for tomorrow. Let's get right to it. Chapter 1. The AI memory revolution. We are seeing memory chips literally hit trillion-dollar valuations.
For the longest time, processors basically stole all the glory, right? But take a look at this staggering milestone. $1 trillion. That's the new valuation for the American memory chip giant Micron, after a massive 19% single-day stock surge. Right after the Memorial Day holiday, their stock absolutely rocketed up to $899 a share. The investment bank UBS even tripled Micron's price target, flat out declaring that artificial intelligence has permanently transformed the very structure of the memory market.
So now we have what you could call a trillion-dollar trio. For the first time in history, Samsung Electronics, Micron, and SK Hynix all boast market caps over $1 trillion side by side. Look at that year-to-date growth. SK Hynix is up a wild 250%. This whole surge is driven by an insatiable data center demand for HBM and DRAM chips. Think of these as the high-speed, short-term brains required to run AI. They literally cannot scale production fast enough to meet the demand, which means they've been able to dramatically hike their prices without losing a single customer.
The crucial takeaway here is that without blazing fast, high-capacity memory, those incredibly powerful GPUs from companies like NVIDIA are basically just expensive paperweights. Large language models like GPT-4 and Gemini absolutely require advanced memory to process billions of parameters, the complex neural connections that actually make the AI smart, and they have to do it at lightning speed. So memory is no longer just some cheap, interchangeable commodity. It's an absolutely vital, strategic piece of the AI supply chain. Moving on to Chapter 2, the Great User Rebellion. This is all about everyday people pushing back against forced tech. So while Wall Street is practically throwing trillions at AI hardware, actual everyday users, well, they're kind of staging a mass exodus. When Google announced they were replacing traditional search links with forced AI overviews, the privacy-focused search engine DuckDuckGo saw its iOS installs explode by nearly 70% in a single day. The backlash was immediate. Apple users, who typically are a bit more protective of their digital privacy anyway, fled Google faster than anyone else, and that growth actually sustained for 6 straight days. It's a really stark contrast. Google is essentially eliminating user choice by forcing these AI overviews with absolutely no way to opt out. Users were complaining they couldn't choose their own sources, couldn't verify inaccurate AI answers, and were just stuck with it. DuckDuckGo capitalized on this frustration instantly. They launched an AI-free search page, leaning heavily into handing control back to the searcher, and promised mandatory opt-out buttons for literally any future AI features they build. Gabriel Weinberg, DuckDuckGo CEO, really hit the nail on the head with this quote. He said they are force-feeding AI. And this goes way beyond just interface design, right? This is about users demanding trust and control over the tools they use every single day. When you force a feature onto users without an exit strategy, they're going to actively seek out alternatives that actually respect their autonomy. And this whole desire for control definitely extends to WhatsApp's new Meta AI document sharing beta. So WhatsApp is testing this incredibly convenient feature that lets you send Word docs or PDFs directly to Meta AI for a quick summary. Sounds great, right? Well, given Meta's mixed track record with data privacy, you really need to exercise strong personal control over what you actually upload. A good rule of thumb? Keep your sensitive data, like medical records, work contracts, and bank statements, strictly offline. Let the AI summarize your educational PDFs or scientific papers instead. Okay, let's look at Chapter 3, AI's Trust Paradox, featuring a rather fascinating contradiction from the Vatican. Recently, Pope Leo XIV released this massive 120-page encyclical warning the world that technology must be highly regulated and kept in the service of humanity. It's titled Magnifica Humanitas, and it eloquently cautions that AI could make civilization less human and reduce people to mere data points if we aren't incredibly careful. It is a powerful, very highly publicized message calling for the metaphorical disarmament of AI.
But here's where things get really interesting. If you run Chapter 4 of that exact encyclical through AI detection tools like GPT-0, you get an 85% probability that parts of it were actually AI-generated. Literally within hours of it being published, researchers notice that distinct smoothed-out phrasing that is just classic language model behavior. Now, the Vatican hasn't officially commented, but neutrally speaking, it's highly probable the drafters utilized AI for their editing and structure.
So, what's the big takeaway here? Well, AI is just so incredibly efficient that even its strongest critics are probably using it behind the scenes. This is a total masterclass in modern communication. Think about it. If you're going to warn the public about a highly powerful tool, and then people discover you secretly used that exact tool to write the warning, it deeply undermines your credibility. Absolute honesty about using AI is now just a baseline prerequisite for trust.
Let's pivot back to hardware for Chapter 4, upgrading consumer security, specifically looking at how Apple is fighting real-world physical threats.
As our digital lives become more valuable, securing the physical devices we actually carry is paramount. Apple's upcoming iOS 26.5 anti-theft feature is brilliant. It uses this exact four-step sequence to detect a snatch and grab, like from a passing bicycle or motorcycle, and it instantly turns the phone into a useless electronic brick. Imagine someone yanks your unlocked iPhone out of your hand and speeds off. Your phone's accelerometer detects the wild speed, notices your Apple Watch is rapidly getting further away, sees you've left your safe Wi-Fi zone, and bam, the screen immediately locks. It completely blocks access to your data.
Apple is also quietly but significantly tightening tracking security. They're automatically pushing out AirTag 2 firmware version 3.0.49 to boost the anti-stalking alarm and optimize battery life. The AirTag 2 already has a speaker that's 50% louder than the original, and this over-the-air update refines that system even further. If an unknown tracker is moving with you, it is going to make itself heard loud and clear, preventing malicious tracking.
Which brings us to our final section, Chapter 5, 3 Lessons for Tomorrow. Let's synthesize this massive shift.
Looking at the events of this one crazy month, we get a surprisingly clear roadmap for where tech is heading. First, the AI boom makes memory just as valuable as processors. For investors, that means looking beyond just NVIDIA to the broader supply chain. Second, users want choice. Consumers will instantly reject forced tools, meaning developers always need to provide an opt-out button. And third, transparency equals trust. AI is an incredible tool, but hiding its use is a massive liability for anyone communicating today. So as we cross this absolutely historic technological inflection point, I want to leave you with this final thought to mull over for your own digital future. The tools are getting infinitely more powerful, the hardware is becoming unimaginably valuable, but at the very end of the day, user choice and trust are still the ultimate currency. Keep questioning the technology that shapes your world.